It's another Thoughtful Thursday, and you on the air with Ron and Romane. And our newest edition, Mama C. Mama C, welcome to the show.
Wait. He just said newest edition.
Yes, I
Hey,
did.
he has just declared that I'm gonna be here every Thursday.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I don't know what to say. I'm just
Okay. So when I say new edition, I don't mean the singing group. I mean a new member of the cast, Ron, Romane, and Mama.
oh, geez, okay.
So, we came one year. TP put on the throwback, Fight the Power by Public Enemy. And it's a pretty apropos song selection. It kind of goes along what we're going to talk about today. So I guess by now, just about everybody's aware of what happened in Alabama, specifically on the boat dock. Oh, God, it was last Saturday. There was a black man. Apparently, he was worked for the boat dock or was the captain of a boat. It's a little sketchy as to what his role actually was, but he apparently was doing his job asking some boaters to move their pontoon boat that was blocking access. And, see, black man asking some boaters who were white to move their boat. And this is in the deep south. Generations ago, that didn't happen. So he asked them to move, and things escalated, and it resulted in an all-out brawl.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, what was happening was this brother was being beaten, savagely beaten by, about 4 or 5 white people, men, women. And I guess the people that were operating the pontoon boat were not really aware of their surroundings. Because you always have to be aware of what's going on around you. Not just they didn't see all those black folks around them.
I'm sure they didn't.
Right. And maybe perhaps they erroneously thought that they were going to beat this man in front of these black people and there would be no repercussions.
Fooled ya.
Yeah. And you know something? That had been that's been going on in this country for centuries. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's be realistic. During the time of our incarceration, otherwise known as slavery, whenever they wanted to punish one of the slaves, everybody was made to come out and see
watch.
This punishment and watch.
Mm-hmm.
To instill fear. And it just seems that now, this generation, we're beginning to break that cycle of fear.
Because we've had enough. Enough.
Absolutely. So the question for today is, for all of our listeners, do you think what happened Saturday is an indication that we as a people are beginning to come together? Because, again, for centuries, we've had to witness this sort of thing. And we were either too afraid to get involved or too apathetic. But is the events of Saturday, is what happened on Saturday, is it a shift in our thinking? And is it going to galvanize us as a people? What do you think, Mama C?
Well, I'm not going to say that it's going to galvanize us as a people because we should have been galvanizing long time ago. You know
Absolutely,
what I'm saying? We haven't been in chains and whipped and been made to watch that kind of craziness for a very long time. I think it's going to take more than something like this to galvanize us. And I was talking with my granddaughter Tiara earlier today about this, and she was saying that she thinks that we do a lot of black folks do a lot of talking.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe too much talking and not enough action.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I said, I think that the action has to begin in our homes. We're at a time where everybody wants to be seen, and attention has become the new thing.
Mm-hmm.
People want attention. And so instead of paying attention to what's going on in your own home, or maybe even your own community. But I like to say first and foremost in your own home,
Right.
because there's too much going on in our own homes that we are ignoring. And so, I mean, for an incident like that, yeah, I think you know what? I have a knee replacement. I have another knee that needs to be replaced. I would have jumped in, because I'm not, enough is enough. I was a fighter in my day, and people didn't mess with me.
Right.
And then they really didn't mess with me because I had a younger brother and an older brother who were, people were scared of them. They weren't going to mess with the code for girls. So, the bottom line here is galvanizing is going to take more than us jumping in and just fighting. But I think that was a good thing that happened, because it says we're not taking this crap anymore.
Is it a step in the right direction, though?
I don't know. Time will tell. I can't say it's a step in the right direction, but I can say that I'm very proud that we as a people stood up for one another and didn't allow that black man to be beaten down when all he was doing was his job.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
We're making America great.
Well, we're making America great again. Or great. I don't know if it's ever been great. We're making it great now.
Well, you know what I think? Now, you said we haven't been in chains, right? And we haven't. Chains came off in 1863, and then completely off in 1865. It was the psychological chains
are still there,
right? That are still there, and I guess now, and not just what happened on Saturday. There's been some other incidents that have, I believe, began the process of bringing us together. If you remember George Floyd, right?
Oh,
that movement. It was it was almost like a worldwide thing. There were people protesting police brutality in this country as far away as New Zealand, Australia, Japan. There were all of these protests around the globe. And this was started by the death of a man they never met. And, one of the problems with us, and I'm talking about the Black community, we do not have sustained movements. Not since Dr. King.
Yeah, true.
And that era, the 1960s, have we had a sustained movement. And, history shows that if you are committed, then there will be change. What happened with Dr. King with the boycott in Montgomery? Black folks said, you know what? We're human beings. We want to be treated. We deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And we're not going to get on your damn bus if we have to sit in the back or give our seat.
Pay and sit in the back.
To come on your bus.
Are you kidding me?
To sit in the back or be forced to stand so a white person could sit down. Right.
Exactly.
So we haven't had that sort of sustained movement in decades. But I think that the George Floyd incident, or I should say, the murder of George Floyd, the televised murder of George Floyd, and now what happened on Saturday, I think it is an indication, at least,
right,
that we are beginning to figure it out. Would you agree with that?
I think we are in the midst of a generation that just ain't taking it anymore. I think some of the people from our generation and the generation before the fear was still too deeply ingrained. The younger generation, like my granddaughter's a generation, she's 18, my oldest granddaughter is 20, they're not taking that nonsense. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so when it comes to sticking together, they are doing that, and they're not tolerating a lot of the mistreatment that our parents and our grandparents had to endure in order to survive.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very good thing. And I think that has to keep moving. And I don't think it's just Black people. There are a number of white folks who are saying enough now too.
And that's true.
Because my grandchildren, they have friends of different nationalities,
Mhm.
white, Hispanic, and they all talk the same language. They all say the same thing. They're tired of the BS.
Mhm.
They're tired of the nonsense,
Mhm.
and they're not going to tolerate it. And if all out war has to come to get them the respect and earn them the opportunity that they deserve, I think they're willing to do it. I think revolution is on the way.
Well, I think we've seen this coming for some time,
Oh yeah.
and it's not just what happened down in Alabama. It's not just George Floyd. There's a different conversation that is taking place. And even if you listen to some of the pastors now, some of these larger churches, because I might follow one or two on social media, the conversation has changed. They're not just talking about traditional Christianity. Now you hear some pastors invoking the ancestors, which is something we were just too afraid to do generations ago. We stuck to fundamental Christianity as it was given to us on the plantation.
As it was given to us on the plantation, and then given to us by many of the ancestors who didn't know any better.
Right.
They had been conditioned to
Right.
believe that Christianity and Jesus
Mhm.
was the way.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I think many of us now are going back and reconnecting with our spirituality
Mhm.
that dwells within us.
Mhm.
And we're seeing that a lot of what we've been taught in religious arenas is a lot of nonsense
Absolutely.
that keeps us mentally enslaved and really fearful of making some changes that go against what we've been taught by religion and religious leaders.
I was listening to a video, actually watching a video by the ancestor, great ancestor, I should say Ashe, John Henry Clark.
Oh yeah.
And he said that a lot of what we know about history and religion is basically because someone said so.
Right, exactly.
Someone taught us. Someone said, "Hey, look, we," and I believe that there's only one race, the human race.
That I believe I'm with you on that as well.
But there are people that said, "Hey, we are
Superior.
not because we can prove it.
Yeah.
Simply our word is enough."
And you need to go along with
You
that.
need to go along with it because what we're going to do is we're going to come up with studies that are going to show that we are intellectually superior. Of course, they're our studies. Right. Right. And you have to accept the outcome of these studies.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So, basically, if you win the war, you write the history. And that's been our legacy. The war has been won by the colonizers. And more than colonizing the land, they colonized our thoughts.
Yeah, colonized our minds.
And here we are just breaking that cycle. And you know what? It's happening all around the world. So I think, what happened, it was a violent outburst down in Alabama, but it was necessary to protect this man.
Absolutely. And to say, hey, we're not tolerating this kind of nonsense anymore. And if you come at us like that, you're gonna get your ass whipped.
Well, something, and if you think about it, right? In the last, let's go back about say 5 years, right? Maybe a little more. I think for another galvanizing factor for Black America, I think was the election of Donald J. Trump. right? I think that a lot of Trump's rhetoric, I think it kind of was, I think in many respects it was a wake up call.
Well, I feel that if there is really an antichrist,
Mhm.
he's it. I'm sorry, I have to say that, and I know other people who are saying the same thing.
Mhm.
He's a monster, and his ideas ideas are not fundamentally unifying
Mhm.
for members of the human family.
Mhm.
And so the rhetoric that he spews all over the country is starting to negatively affect the minds of white people
Mhm.
who are feeling as though they have the right to keep us down, to whip us back into shape, shall
Mhm.
I say,
Mhm.
you know? And the younger generation under us are saying, "Oh, that ain't happening. That ain't
Mhm.
happening." So if you come at us like that, you come at us in a way that is harmful to us, we're going to defend ourselves.
Well, if you look at it, after Trump took office, some of his rhetoric, after incidents like what happened down in Charlottesville, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
um, some of the statements he made, shithole countries in Africa, and referring to places like Haiti and other parts of the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice, after that, a number of gun clubs, black gun clubs, began to form. You saw the resurgence of groups like the new Black Panther Party.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw people, black and brown people arming themselves,
Saying,
training, not just arming, but
we
training.
got to prepare.
Right. And down in Georgia, there's a group of, brothers and sisters that bought 96 acres of land. They, put their money together, bought 96 acres of land, I believe it's in southern Georgia, and they're building a community down there, a self-sustaining community.
Awesome.
So I think that Trump, like him, love him, whatever, I think he was a wake-up call for Black America.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, you can't have an ounce of sense and not see through the rhetoric that he was promulgating throughout the country.
Mhm.
And he thought he was smart enough to galvanize white folks to come against us
Mhm.
again and put us in our place.
But I think he did. I think even, Dr. King and Malcolm X talked about the so-called liberal-minded white people. So, okay, you're not opposed to, say, voting rights.
Mm-hmm.
You might not be opposed to, say, equal accommodations. But when it comes to living next door or having your children attend the same schools, the line might be drawn there. And, I think a clear example of that is this whole debate over critical race theory. So many people, and I mean, people in media, have come out against CRT. A lot of these people had no idea what it was, but just the term critical race theory. So they came up with some ridiculous nonsense to scare white America by saying, hey, listen, this particular curriculum, if you will, is going to make little white children feel guilty about something that their ancestors did, that they have no control over. And we don't want our children to feel bad for what happened centuries ago.
But it's okay for our children to feel bad and to be afraid and to live substandard lives. So, it's just, you would think that at this point in life, people would be smart enough to understand that when we all come together as members of the human family, that we fare better.
Mm-hmm.
We are able to help each other and not feel a sense of insecurity or instability or a lack of worthiness,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because we are all deserving.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to prove ourselves worthy by treating one another in a way that is godly.
Well, you know something? The powers that be can never allow that to happen
Oh,
because
of
if
course.
there's always more of us than there are of them.
Right. And that's the whole deal right there.
Exactly. And if we come together, we are not going to accept the crumbs that fall from the table.
No
We are
more.
going to make serious demands. We are going to want to change the entire system, the economic system, the political system, the social system, and make it fair for everyone.
And they don't want that.
And they cannot allow that because the power that they have today, they won't have tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And if you think about it, and I guess I'll use this as an analogy, every year trillions of dollars are made from, say, the sale of drugs, cocaine, heroin. If they legalize it and they tax it, you cut the profit
Oh,
from
absolutely.
the dealers and the distributors. So, of course, we keep it illegal so that trillions of dollars are made every year. Well, it's the same thing, I guess, with racism or what's called racism. If you allow it to end and everybody comes together, there's no profit anymore for them. So the idea is to keep us divided, keep us fighting for the little small crumbs that fall from the table.
And unfortunately, that's what's happening to a certain degree. We're not coming together. We are in the way that we need to.
Mm-hmm.
We are, I think, far too many of us want to be recognized
Mm-hmm.
as all that and a bag of chips.
Mm.
I mean, I run into them. I see them on Facebook all the time. And I just shake my head and I said, how sad is this that, you know, we as a people, we're taking on the same mindset as white people because many of them think I'm better than you because I have a bigger degree, I make more money, you know, I'm all that in a bag of chips. And as long as we are buying into that that kind of craziness, or thinking we're better than each other, we're never going to be able to galvanize in the way that we need to and build and become the dynamic people we were designed, created, and born into the world to be. You can't be a replica of God if who you are is ungodly.
Well, you know, you and I had talked the other day, and I guess what we're saying kind of segues into messaging, right? So you and I had talked about a movie, kind of popular movie that's out right now called They Cloned Tyrone.
Yeah, like I said, I when I first started watching it, I couldn't get past 10 minutes of it. It was just it whatever. But my grandchildren wanted to see it, and one of them had seen it, and some of it she didn't understand, so she asked if I would watch the movie with them so that they could ask questions about things they didn't understand.
Right.
And oh my God. All I can say is, oh my God. I mean, it told a story.
You know, and what's happened, and when we talk about the process, now for Africans coming into this country, there was a process by which they were broken down. What is also a process necessary to build back up.
Right.
One of those ways is through messaging. You know, we had Dr. King, we had Malcolm, we have Minister Farrakhan, we have so many leaders that have come to us and tried to get us to think differently. If you think differently, you do differently.
Oh, absolutely. You gotta flip the script on the old mindset
Right.
and bring yourself to that level of mindset that stimulates a level of intelligence that supersedes the past.
And I think that we're seeing that one of the tools that has been probably the most powerful tool at the disposal of Black America has been hip hop. Right now, all of the major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, all talking about 50 years of hip hop. When hip hop started, the major record labels would not touch it.
Would not touch it.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, 30 years, 40 years later, everybody listens to hip hop. It is global. You go to Israel, there are people rapping, talking about some of the same stuff that goes on in the inner cities of America. It's happening in China, it's happening in Japan, it's happening in Russia. This is a global movement. If we have that power, that reach, if we had someone like, say, a KRS-One, who was still actively rapping, actively getting the message out there, we can begin to really see some appreciable change.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
the record labels, and Terry talks about this all the time, the record labels are not interested in hearing about unity, about strength, about community,
about power,
and collectively coming together to take our funds and build something.
Right.
The record labels, what they want to hear is, how much drugs are you selling? How many people have you robbed, shot? How much powder you moving? How many sisters have you beat or impregnated and left? That is the messaging that's being carried around the globe. And that's one of the things that it is so important that we break that cycle.
Oh, absolutely.
Because people come into this country having had little to no contact with Black people, but already fearing and with a preconceived notion of who we are.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we've got to break that cycle. And I think that we're beginning to crack that wall. It's like, when Reagan was president, he said to Gorbachev, tear down that wall. I think we're beginning to see some cracks in that wall. And that wall is held up by what's called racism. It's held up by division. It's held up by lack of opportunity. That wall has got to come down. And I know that there are people of goodwill, regardless of your skin color.
Absolutely.
But I think that we have to do it for us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I have to say, it's not about skin color. It's about mindset.
Absolutely.
And I think that people who are moving to a higher level of intelligence are seeing that and reaching out and coming together. But I think there has to be more of us, because at the rate we're going right now, it'll take us another 200-300 years to get to where we need to go.
Yeah, and we don't have that kind of time.
Now, I know I don't have that kind of time. Like I said, I'll be 70 in January, and I've lived more life than I have left. But I'd like to see some real positive change take place before I take my last breath. And I'd like to see it without violence and without the killing of any color of people.
Right.
Because we're all created by the same power, the same God. I don't care what you call that God or how you worship. We are all created in the same way. And if we don't recognize that only we can come together to make the changes. Nobody else is going to do it for us.
Right.
Nobody's going to do it for us. And I think the Flyers are trying to get in on this conversation.
I think
but,
so too.
hey, if that's what it takes, come on, join
Right.
the party. But we have to set examples and keep setting examples. And it doesn't matter. I always say, one of the things I always say is, we as human beings don't do as others say. We do as others do.
Right.
We are mimickers. Human beings mimic behavior. So all of us who have ascended, risen to a higher level of intelligence and understanding, we have to set the examples, because when people see who we are, my granddaughter was with me, and then there was a group of women. We were in Walmart today, and the women, oh, mama see, they came in, and we were all hugging and just feeling the energy and just feeling the joy of the experience of connecting. I think that when people understand that the joy and the power of connecting in positive ways is phenomenal, I would hope that more would begin to do it.
You said something, you like to see things happen in a peaceful way.
Right.
And I think that most of us, probably people around the world, feel that way. But unfortunately, there are no peaceful revolutions.
Yeah, true.
Revolutions are violent. In this country, the British did not leave on their own accord. They had to be forced out. And even what starts out as peaceful protest turned violent.
Oh, absolutely.
You just look at some of the protests in this country, Black Lives Matter, down in Charlottesville, Virginia, right? People turned out to protest, others coming into their state who were, skinheads, neo-Nazis. Well, people died that day.
Well, we have to realize that there are many-minded people. Okay? I don't think that'll ever change. There are people whose mindsets are so low that they're down with the roaches.
Right.
Okay? And they're going to always be there because they're operating on fear.
But unfortunately, some of those people are in positions of power.
That's true, but they're not going to be in positions of power always. Because as we begin to elevate and bring our mindsets to a level where we're thinking logically and acting rationally, things are going to change, and we're going to find ourselves in positions of power we never thought we'd ever be in.
But I think that we've seen that, and I think that's all part of this movement. Because now we have Black women, the most educated class in this country. We see it happening in movies where people focus on the action scenes and do not catch the subliminal messages that they should get.
You're right.
But when so much damage is done to our ability to perceive, we miss it. And they have been dropping some serious knowledge in some of these movies.
Oh, yes, they have. And it's powerful. It's powerful. And my granddaughter, who's 18, today she was on an interview, and the woman couldn't believe that she was only 18 years old because she's so much wiser and more mature than the average 18 years old. She doesn't care about the nonsense that the average 18-year-old participates in. And so I think that as young people begin to reach that level, there's going to be a change, a shift. And there's nothing that those people in power who are against other people being in power, I don't think that they're going to be able to do a whole lot because that population of people are going to be so wise. They're going to outwise them.
Mhm.
And so it's coming. It's happening, and it's going to continue to expand as the generations continue to grow and as young people begin to see with a different eye and perceive with a different vision.
Now, let me ask you something. We're talking about messaging right now. So, in light of what happened on the boat dock in Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's impossible to be in someone else's head to think for them
Mm-hmm.
or to see through their lens, but do you think that white America, um, you think that maybe they took something away from what happened and maybe there was a lesson to be learned for them?
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I certainly hope so. They have to see now that there has been a shift,
Hmm.
and if they want to maintain peace in this country and not see it totally destroyed, then they have to begin to flip the script on
Hmm.
their own mindset
Hmm.
and realize that we're now in a generation of people who are just not going to tolerate it, and not just this generation, more of us, period, at every level. We're just not tolerating. And did you see? I sent you something. Oh, I put your name on something today, and I was reading it, and it was about two men where there were four cops who busted into their house. Did you see?
It was six cops,
And
and
they
they
were
sexually assaulted
they
and shot one in the mouth.
and shot one in the mouth.
Yeah, there were six cops who pleaded guilty.
And I mean, what's happening is they're starting to get their just desserts.
Mhm.
There was a time when they got away with that.
Right?
They're not getting away with that anymore because too many of us are speaking up, standing up, and will not tolerate that level of indignity and abuse for no damn reason.
Well, here's the thing. Now, historically, not just in this country, but around the globe,
Right.
when Europeans feel threatened or when you begin to fight back, their level of violence just intensifies. If you think about it, going back to Dr. King and the Montgomery bus boycott, this was a peaceful movement.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But the response from people like Bull Connor and the good Christian white folks of Montgomery
Did you say good Christian white
good
folk?
Christian white folks of
Okay.
Montgomery
Mhm,
was
mhm.
to lead violent attacks
Yeah.
against people who only wanted freedom
Right,
and to be treated fairly.
right.
And you see this, Dr. King led the march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And on the other side of the bridge was Alabama state troopers,
Absolutely,
whose
absolutely.
job is to protect and to serve,
Uh-huh.
launched a violent attack against non-violent protesters
Oh yeah,
who only wanted the right to vote
yeah,
and the right to be treated as human beings.
yeah.
So, after what happened Saturday, is it possible, do you think, that there will be some backlash, that there may be some attacks against people of color?
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the mindset. That's the roach mindset of people who are thinking on a minimal level, and
Mhm.
they've been conditioned to believe that they are superior.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they feel that they are superior, they're going to respond in a way that is violent and abusive
Mhm.
because they think they have the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that has not changed clearly
Mm-hmm.
because Saturday is a clear example of a people who thought they had an absolute right to go and attack that man
Mm-hmm.
the way they did.
Well, those are the roach mind, the
Mhm.
ones with the roach mindsets. They have such a low sense of reality
Mhm.
about what it means to be a human being
Mhm.
that they still think that it's okay to attack people of color.
Mhm.
And many of them are afraid because let's be honest, people of color in this country are the majority.
Yes,
We are
always have
not
been.
the minority.
Always have been.
And see, once we wake up and collectively wake up and understand that and come together, oh my God, there's gonna be there's gonna be hell to pay.
But here's the thing. That is a fear of white America.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
and I think it was Dr. Francis Cress Welsing
Mm-hmm.
that said it best: fear of genetic annihilation. I think that Europeans, those that identify themselves as being white, realize that on the planet they are outnumbered probably 1,000 to 1,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and because of that, they live in a constant state of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to just use Donald Trump as the only example because there have been many
Oh, there are many.
that stoke the racial tensions.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
And racial tensions is not a good word because it's just the human race, but probably ethnic tensions.
Right. Right.
So now what you have is down on the southern border, you have people that go out on the border and shoot down people attempting to cross.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The governor of the state of Texas put pontoons in the water with razor wire.
Whoa.
So that when you try to get onto the pontoon, it spins and it cuts you.
How barbaric is that?
But you got to understand, sometimes you're dealing with people with a barbaric nature.
Oh, absolutely.
And when you cannot reason with someone with a barbaric nature.
You absolutely cannot. And that is the reality that we're all dealing with.
And that's why those brothers and sisters that came to the aid of that man on that dock, they had absolutely no choice.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because they may have beaten this man to death.
Oh, absolutely. They would have beaten him to death.
Right.
They would have. And from what I could see, he was an older man. He wasn't a teenager.
No, he didn't appear. He did appear to be at least, say, middle-aged.
Middle-aged, exactly.
Right. And, it's impossible unless you are a well-skilled, expert in martial arts to fight off 5 or 6 people at one time.
At one time, especially 5 or 6 young men who are pounding on you.
Right.
I mean, how do you protect yourself from something like that?
It's difficult. And I'll tell you something, right? In this country, and I don't, from, I guess, a religious standpoint, I'm not a religious person, but
yeah, me either.
I do believe that sometimes there are passages in the Bible that kind of make sense, and also that have, I guess, a message for us. So the Bible speaks of the last day, the day of judgment. And it also speaks about the earth being destroyed by water, right, during the time of Noah. Well, now it speaks of the earth being destroyed by fire. And my wife and I were talking today, and she was talking about the wildfires in Hawaii.
And Canada.
And the fires in Canada. And the fires in California.
Right.
And the fires that are engulfing huge swaths of the west coast of this country. I think that there is a message there, right? That we in this country are headed in the wrong direction. So much so that, and again, I'm going to go back to Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump could not be a police officer right now because he has indictments against him.
Right.
So you cannot hold the office of, you can't be a cop. You cannot join the military when you have indictments. Yet there are people in this country that want Donald Trump
to be
in charge of the military that he can't even join because he has indictments.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there was something fundamentally wrong when a person who can't even join the military can command it.
Cuckoo birds to the 10th power. Cuckoo birds. You know, anybody who wants someone like that to run the country, they've lost their freaking minds. That's all I can say. They've lost their minds, and they are operating from a place of fear. So they're willing to allow this level of nonsense to take place with the hope that they're going to be okay under his lead.
I think there's a belief amongst some of his most ardent or strident followers that everything is going to be okay if Trump gets back into the White House. That all of these problems, not plaguing the world, but plaguing white America, will be resolved if we can only get this man back in office and that he can continue the work that he started.
That's a level of thinking that is just
isn't even thinking.
Absolutely ludicrous.
Even thinking.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I said thinking because I couldn't think of another word
at
that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it's absolutely ludicrous.
Well, you know what? Realistically, belief is kind of ludicrous to some degree.
Oh, absolutely. Depending on what belief it is, because there are a lot of people whose beliefs are in the gutter.
Mm-hmm.
Their thinking is in the gutter.
Mm-hmm.
Their lives are in the gutter. And they're trying to figure out how to get all of that straightened out. And to think that this man has the ability to do that, that's just some more gutter stuff.
Well, I think that when he ran the first time, he struck a chord with many Americans. And I'm talking about Americans of various nationalities or ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know people, friends of mine that voted for Trump, family members that voted for Trump, because Trump talked about jobs. Trump talked about America first, strengthening the American economy. He talked about, look, we don't need to be involved in these endless foreign conflicts. And he was right.
Yeah, he's right there.
He's right about that. We don't need, we're sending billions of dollars every month to fight a war in Ukraine, a war that the people of Ukraine, unfortunately, cannot win.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Absolutely.
But, and so he was right about that. So he struck a chord with people. Now, that might have been on the positive side. On the negative side, he manipulated people's fears. He told them that, look, these people coming up from Central South America, these hordes, as he called them, were bringing guns, they're bringing drugs, they're rapists. Like if the guns aren't already here.
Exactly.
As if the rapists aren't already here. The drugs aren't already here. And now what you find is these people are being attacked. These people are being scapegoated. How many thousands of people are sleeping in a park in New York City?
On heat grids in the winter to try and stay warm.
Right. No place for them to go.
No place for them to go.
Right. So, we feed into those fears, right?
Absolutely.
That they're coming. And you hear some of these Trumpers, if you will, saying, we're taking back our country. Taking it back from who? Who took it from you?
Exactly.
Well, who did you take it from?
Who did you take it from?
And
exactly.
That's the
and
conversation.
Slaughtered them.
That's a conversation that has never been had. Who did you take it from?
Absolutely.
Right.
And slaughtered people.
Mm-hmm.
slaughtered the American Indians
Mhm.
to take this country.
Right.
You got to be kidding me.
Mhm.
You got to be freaking kidding me.
Right. And now we're angry because the American Indians want it back.
Mhm.
Some of these people coming up from Central South America, indigenous people, want back what's taken from them. And this is what I mean when you talk about fighting back. The level of violence intensifies.
Oh, it does. And it's going to intensify and it's going to happen whether we like it or not. And there are those of us who want to live peaceful, happy lives.
Mhm.
But the reality is that in order to put things in its proper perspective, all out war is going to have to happen.
Well, it seems as if we're headed that way. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that what happened on that boat dock in Alabama was just a microcosm
Yeah.
of what's happening across this country and across the
Absolutely.
world.
Absolutely.
And again, we have so many groups of color now that are arming themselves and training and preparing for that time, right? When, these folks who are saying this is our country decide they're going to make a move to take it back.
Mhm.
And when you see white people slaughtering other white people, it's not long before they're coming for us.
Oh, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And my daughter made me get a gun permit
Mhm.
a couple of years ago. I haven't gotten a gun yet. I
Right.
mean, I've always been a little leery of guns,
Mhm.
but there may come a time soon that I need to hit the gun range and
Mhm.
learn how to use a gun appropriately in order to protect myself and my family. Because unfortunately, there are no men in my family.
Well, I'll tell you something.
So the women are going to have to do what the women did back then, way
Mhm.
back when. You're going to have to arm yourself and protect yourself and your family. And that's the reality, whether we like it or not.
Well, I'll tell you something, right? We got to the party late. A lot of the arguments, political arguments in this country, are around the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
These folks are deadly serious about their Second Amendment rights. We have, like I said, showed up late to the party. We're just beginning to organize and purchase guns and train and prepare. But these folks have been doing it for years.
Oh,
There
absolutely.
are a number, countless militia groups across this country
Yes, there are.
that have been training and preparing for what they call a race war
Mm-hmm,
for
mm-hmm,
years.
mm-hmm. And there are probably plenty of them up in these mountains here.
Well, yeah, you better believe it.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
there's certain places on this mountain I don't go, and especially by myself.
Neither do I.
Because when you know, or like they say, when you know better, you do better.
Right.
So I'm not going to drive up into, and I can't run anymore.
Right.
So I'm not driving up into some place that's going to put myself in danger.
I'll tell you a quick story. When I was the NAACP president for this county, there was a gentleman, Mr. Washington, God rest his soul. He's been here. I think he moved here in 1973.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed me pictures of the Ku Klux Klan marching down Main Street, Stroudsburg in 1986.
Wow.
1986. So we're talking relatively recent history.
Right.
Since we've been here, they marched in the West End.
Okay.
Wow.
Since we've been here.
So
we've been here.
So this is something that, they've been here and they're not going to go away.
Oh, no, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
Because they think that they have the right. And they think that if things get too out of hand, they have the right to come at us.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
They do. And you know what? It's unfortunate that it has to come to this.
Yeah.
But we have to protect ourselves. And I was surprised but happy about what I saw on Saturday, because enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
It's been centuries.
When I came in here, I thought we were going to have some chairs, some what do you call those folding chairs?
Oh yeah.
I was looking for the folding chairs.
Oh yeah. The folding weapons.
The folding weapons, exactly.
Yeah. Well, folks, something to think about on this thoughtful Thursday. Because Yeah, people are making memes about what happened, but this is very serious.
Oh, absolutely.
And do not think for 1 second that there will not be some retaliation.
Hmm.
So if you're on point, stay on point.
Absolutely.
So next week we're going to be back with some more Thoughtful Thursday stuff to hopefully stimulate those brain cells and get you to thinking and coming together and organizing, because it's coming. Something very serious is right around the corner.
Absolutely.
So, Mama C, it's been a wonderful hour and a half with you.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Now I'm going home. I'm running home, stripping. I saw a meme
Right.
today where the woman came in the door. Someone had sent it to me. And when she came in the door of a house, she pulled off her bra, threw it around and threw it.
Right.
She whirled it around and threw it. I said, you know what? I think every woman in the world can understand that. So I'm getting ready to do that when I go home.
Okay. All right.
And get comfortable and relax.
I hear you. Well, all right, folks. I hope you you listened, you took some of this in, and you'll be back with us next Thursday. You'll have a good weekend.
Until then, bye.